Live. All right. Let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Friday, August 13th, 2021. Today, we're talking about the continuing discussion and fallout from Apple's most recent child safety announcements. And but we're also going to have a bit of fun and look forward to September and what we expect to see there, thanks to a few fun new rumors. So joining me as always is iMore contributor Karen Freeman. Hey, Karen.
Hello.
And joining us today as our special guest is iMore writer Christine Romero-Chan. Hey, Christine.
Hey.
All right. So first things first. The discussion and fallout of Apple's most recent announcements just continues. I think we're just going to be talking about this for a while. Certainly not what Apple expected from everything that we hear. They thought they could just announce this and everybody would be fine, or they'd move on in a week, and that has not happened. So
feelings are strong, and it does seem to be pretty split. From what I see on Twitter, it's pretty split between people who absolutely hate it and people who are like, yeah, this is great. We should be doing this.
I will tell you, the thing that kind of confuses me about this whole debate, I guess when it's I am both confused and somewhat understanding. I guess when we're talking about our devices, our personal devices, people really get up in arms about it, and I get that. However, like CSAM scanning and not necessarily the child safety, like the iMessage stuff, not necessarily that, but the CSAM scanning is something that other companies have been doing for years. I think I said this last week with Renee, but if you have this material on any devices, the cloud is not for you. A lot of other things aren't for you, just to be clear, but the cloud existing is not maybe your forte. But yeah, don't use, if you really want all of your stuff to be private, the cloud is, it's one of those convenience features in exchange for a little security. Mm-hmm. Because Apple doesn't fully encrypt iCloud. People talk about that all the time because, the FBI, for instance, could issue a warrant for an iCloud backup and things like that. There was a story, I think, last year that Apple had thought about encrypting all of that, or perhaps re-implementing that, and then they ended up not, over law enforcement concerns. Yeah. So this week, in this particular topic this week, Apple has published a full-on FAQ addressing these concerns. So Karen, why don't you take us through this a little bit? It is a new FAQ on Apple's they published it in the form of a PDF, which of course they did. It's always a PDF. So, but why don't you take us through this just a bit? What sort of concerns that they address in this document?
My internet is loading very slowly. Maybe Christine can take us through this one.
I will. I'll get us started, and then I will pass it off to you. So one of the things, starting with this is really addressing the child safety measures in iMessage. Does this break end-to-end encryption in messages? Apple, for instance, says no, this does not. This does not change the privacy assurances of iMessage or of messages, and Apple never gains access to communications as a result of this feature. My read on this is Apple has been very deliberate in saying all of this stuff is on device, and the reason they said it is because they are not, like, from Apple, like Apple servers are not scanning your messages. They're not scanning images. Like the Apple servers aren't scanning the images. They're not looking at anything. Like if you have let's say you just have like a selfie in your iCloud photo library that it gets uploaded to the cloud. Apple doesn't know necessarily what your face looks like from that selfie. You know, they just scan it again. They're scanning it against an existing database. And if the math lines up, then they contact the relevant authorities. But they're not straight up looking at your photos. And it's similar with the messages. The iMessage implementation of this child safety feature. It is using machine learning to say, this doesn't seem appropriate. Do you still want to look at this? And it's all on device. This is some of the more serious implementations of the neural engine on Apple's A series processors. Yeah. Christine, I actually wanted to ask you, because I don't think we've talked about this a lot, just us. What is your take on all of this, on these announcements?
I'm kind of like in the middle, I guess. I don't really see it as like completely black and white. There's a lot of gray area, a lot of gray for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Apple has like good intentions, but I feel like, I mean, I talked about this with my husband. I feel like we feel like it's a slippery slope kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I think one of the biggest issues with all of this centers around the messaging. First of all, like it's all fair, and it's because it's all highly technical that it's easy for people to grab this and say Apple is scanning your photos, Apple is bugging your phone or whatever. But yeah, I
think the issue is if let's say there's a predator that's trying to send inappropriate pictures to a minor,
mm-hmm.
And Apple's catching this. So then it begs the question: well, what if people two adults in a consenting relationship are sending unclothed selfies to one another, which is perfectly legal, and I mean, it's nobody's business but theirs. So is Apple scanning those photos too? Like, I guess that's what people want. Like, are people looking at my selfies that I'm sending to my private partner privately?
Right.
I think that's the concern.
Yeah. And I think it kind of goes to what I was saying a minute ago. Apple doesn't look at your photos. It is comparing hashes for known material.
Right.
And so there's not a live person at Apple seeing that. The only time a live person is going to actually see a photo that has been found on your device is if it matches up with the hash for the existing database of material.
But that's the part that's supposed to be catching child pornography per se, or things along that line. But I'm talking about iMessage, where it's specifically like a person sending an image to a minor or somebody under 13. That's inappropriate in any way. It doesn't have to be a picture of a child. It could be a picture of him or her or their self,
an adult, as it were.
Right. Yeah. It could be anything. But if Apple flags it inappropriate, then they get the messaging. The photo will, when a child account sends or receives sexually explicit images, the photo will be blurred and the child will be warned, presented with helpful resources, and reassured it is okay if they do not want to view or send the photo. As an additional precaution, young children can also be told to make sure they are safe, that their parents will get the message if they do view it. And that's directly from Apple.
Stephen in the comments actually points this out really concisely. If you're not dealing, this is for users that are marked as children.
Right.
In an iCloud family setup. So since I am not marked as a child, I can do what I want without getting that warning and without anybody seeing that.
Right. But I guess maybe people's concern is that if Apple is doing it when you flip the switch, how do we know Apple's not doing it if we don't flip the switch?
Right. And I think that's what's really important behind Apple's emphasis that this is all on device, is that there's not someone elsewhere looking at it. Even if you mark something as and the parent has to turn it on, even if you let's say, send explicit material to, between two consenting adults, or actually, no, if you have someone sending inappropriate material to a minor and that warning pops up, and that's going to, the person who gets that warning, in addition to the person receiving it, is also the parents of the people receiving it, but Apple isn't getting it. Like, none of that, from what I understand, is reported to Apple. The stuff that's reported to Apple all has to do with the CSAM stuff.
Okay.
Whereas the messages bit, that is sort of, that it feels like Apple is allowing that. They're providing tools to let that be handled more personally, or if you want to involve local law enforcement or something like that. But Apple only really gets involved on outside of the tools that they're building on the actual CSAM uploading and scanning, or
Right.
comparisons, I would say.
Right. I guess I'm of two minds of the whole thing. Obviously, nobody wants somebody looking at their private photos, but on the other hand, any kind of tool that is gonna catch and help apprehend child predators, I'm all for. So,
and I think this is one of those things, and we talked a bit about this last week with Renee, that goes to it's not Apple's not really doing this out of a sense of, not necessarily doing this out of a sense of civic duty. I'm sure they'd like to be able to say, hey, we caught these bad people or whatever.
They're covering their behinds. So
exactly. This is, I think, ultimately a liability issue. They don't want this stuff on their servers, and stuff that gets uploaded to iCloud Photo Library, guess what, goes to Apple servers.
Right.
So and with that stuff, basically, I guess the best way to describe it in a privacy angle, what Apple will know about your photos when you upload them is they will know whether or not you have these images from this database. They will know that you don't have CSAM images, or if you do, but they won't know. But outside of you having that material, possessing that material, they won't know exactly what you have. They won't know, for instance, if you have a picture of a sunset or your dog or something like that. They will just know that you have a photo and that it is or is not an image from this database.
Yeah. But by the way, we've been using the term CSAM, but we should probably just mention what it stands for. Child Sexual Abuse Material.
Yeah.
If anybody was wondering.
Yeah. That is, CSAM is a way to get around saying that incredibly unpleasant phrase, but it's also the only part I consistently remember, if I'm being honest. I know acronyms, and that's my own thing. So that's Apple published this FAQ. It is long. It is a PDF document that is, the actual answers.
It's a wall of text.
The actual answers cover 1, 2, 3, 4 pages and a bit. And this actually, I think this is an important question they ask. Will CSAM detection in iCloud photos falsely flag innocent people to law enforcement? No. This is what Apple says. No, the system is designed to be very accurate, and the likelihood that the system would incorrectly flag any given account is less than 1 in 1 trillion per year. In addition, anytime an account is flagged by the system, Apple conducts human review before making a report to NCMEC, which, Karen, if you can find that acronym. As a result, system errors or attacks will not result in innocent people being reported to NCMEC. So, and this is one of the organizations that Apple's working with on this database.
Oh, it's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Thank you. That is a good acronym to know. But you're not flagged until Apple performs a human review if an image is flagged in their system.
Okay, that's a horrible job.
That is a terrible job. It's it reminds me of those stories from a few years ago about the people at Facebook that had to like
Yeah,
look at and ban
yeah.
the worst material on the internet, and probably including some of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the same kind of thing.
And it's
Soul crushing.
Absolutely. I mean, soul crushing to know it exists in the first place. But I mean, yeah, certainly not a fun job. It seems one would hope at least that it would be a little less intense than the Facebook version, because they're not trying to moderate an entire social network. But still, terrible position to be in. Would not want it. One thing to note is that I think there's a little bit of ambiguity about this, or there was, at least initially, but Apple is saying that, or at least it is being reported that Apple is saying that and this is also from the FAQ, that photos in your iCloud photo library, I think your existing iCloud photo library will be scanned to see whether or not they match with
Yeah,
this stuff.
that was something that changed from last week when we were talking
I believe
about it.
so.
Like
I believe so.
Last week we were on the information was it was only when something was uploaded to the cloud, but now it's everything in iCloud.
I would imagine that this is. I would imagine this actually might be taking place cloud side rather than device side. I don't know that they'll be scanning your entire. They're not scanning your entire phone. That is one thing that they have said, is that the on-device scanning is only during the upload process. It isn't during any other time. So when a photo is uploaded, it gets scanned. So it would make sense that this is taking place in the cloud, which I think they've been doing previously.
So does this apply to like photos that already are uploaded to iCloud?
It seems like it might.
Okay.
But it's the same stuff. It is the hash matching, and yeah, they're trying to do this as privately as possible. And they seem to have a lot of safeguards in place. We'll see. I think part of this is, like the first false positive that there is going to blow up if there, assuming there is one. So, yeah, I think a lot of this is there's certain wait and see aspect to some of this.
Yeah.
Moving on to some more, let's say, more pleasant fare here. This is actually new. This is sort of late breaking. It's just something it's not a huge topic for discussion. It's just something I want to bring up, because back in the day, I say back in the day, just a decade ago or so, Apple went to court against Samsung for copying their stuff, copying designs, copying software design, that sort of thing. And yet Xiaomi's just out here being Xiaomi, and they have that company has announced their latest tablet, and here's the name. I love this name. It is the Mi Pad 5 Pro. That's Mi Pad 5 Pro. And it's a fucking iPad Pro. It is an iPad Pro. Sorry for getting a little explicit there, but it is an iPad Pro, and the shamelessness, truly. And if you look at the bottom of this thing, I guess it's one of the sides. It has a smart connector, 3 circular centered dots that are very clearly for some kind of signal delivery, shall we say? And it just I don't know why we let this sort of thing happen, but even the pencil charging interface. So, is anybody tempted by the Mi Pad 5 Pro? Anybody want that instead of an iPad Pro? Oh man, it does have a fingerprint sensor in the button, because maybe Face ID would be just a bridge too far there. Oh my! But even more exciting. So, this is important. So for all of us who have been waiting for truly pro MacBooks, or I guess truly pro MacBooks Pro, if we're being a little technical, but for all of us who've been waiting for that stuff, it sounds like we should start getting excited, because the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro have reportedly entered mass production. Finally. Christine, are you excited about this? Are you looking forward to at
Only
least?
if I can get them in colors.
I keep envisioning, Christine, I have to tell you, I keep envisioning a deep blue MacBook Pro, like they have on the iMac or they have on the iPhone 12. I keep like seeing it in my mind's eye, and I know I'm just setting myself up for disappointment here.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Time,
these are going to be like silver and space gray, I'm guessing.
yeah, maybe they could at least bring like
rose
gold or
gold.
something like that.
Yeah, rose gold would be nice, but I don't think it will. Or even like a blue, like a Pacific blue, not like the bright blue, like the Pacific blue of the 12 Pro.
That would be at least that would be something,
Yeah, that would be. I think that would be a nice color for a MacBook Pro.
For it, like if we're really sticking with the idea of certain colors being pro, and we need these computers only to be those pro colors, which,
I mean, Apple has deemed that a pro color, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So why not? Why not?
My
in the
phone
MacBook Pro?
says so. So yeah, let's
right.
get Pacific blue on the MacBook Pro.
I would totally buy that.
Oh yeah, that
So
version.
what about like midnight green from the 11 Pro? No,
I didn't love that green, but
I guess there were quite a few people that did like it, but no, not for.
What about the green on the iMac? Like the darker green?
Better,
Yeah.
definitely better.
But that's not like a pro. That's not what Apple considers a pro green.
Well, it should be a pro green.
I know.
What's wild to me about that, the idea I would assume behind those the bold colors being on the backs of those iMacs, because like think about where you mostly find iMacs out in public, and it's in like offices and with reception areas, and where you see the back of a computer, and so they stand out in these bold colors. Is that not pro? Are these Macs not pro?
I think it's funny because Luke just wrote that editorial about how Apple should bring the colors to all the Pro devices, and like the response on Twitter was like, nah. I'm starting to think maybe it's just an iMore thing. Maybe it's just us that want these colors.
You people are no fun. What is wrong with you? Who hurt you that you don't want those options to be available? Oh, that is frustrating. Give me a deep orange or a bright yellow or a that just very, very nice blue.
Purple.
Luke is, I think, at this point, deeply in love with blue. Maybe as a concept.
I think he really surprised himself at how much he loves that blue iMac.
I remember.
But in the meantime, there's Skin It and dbrand, and you can personalize your MacBook as you see fit.
Purple. Like, I'm not kidding myself. The iMac does come in. There's a purple option, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen it in real life, but the pictures, it looks beautiful.
Apple's product photography on its website is often very good. Sometimes it can get a little, but it's often very good, and the colors are just.
Some colors are very hard to photograph. Like, I think it was the iPhone 10 that the sort of like champagne gold sort of color that was impossible to photograph. Like, it did not look like its pictures. Like the photos on Apple's website did not do it justice at all.
Yeah, everything I've heard indicates that the yellow iMac is a little like like Apple hasn't photographed it properly.
Okay.
And that in real life
I can
it's
see
a
that.
little
Yellow is a tough color.
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably slightly more towards gold.
Yeah.
So here's my question for the both of you. Speaking of color, I mean, we're talking about MacBooks, but we're also, September, we're probably going to see new iPhones. Do we think
it's next month? It's just a few weeks away.
Oh my God! Have I started my planning in our project management stuff? Yes, I have.
I'm sure.
Am I entirely ready? No. I'm not. But my question for the both of you actually is, so it's not uncommon for us to get a brand new slate of colors with each new iPhone. Ever so, they'll sometimes keep colors from year to year, but often they will just completely rework them. And like, do we think we'll see that this year, or are they going to hold on to some of them?
I hope so.
Yeah, I think they pretty much have new colors every year. I think they'll have new colors. I mean, there's some overlap from year to year. I mean, some colors keep coming back, like red, obviously, because of Project Red. But
right, but it's slightly different. It's a little like space gray.
Oh, the red changes every year for sure. Sometimes it's almost orange, and sometimes it's like a really cool, almost like a berry kind of red.
I feel like last year, and again, I haven't seen one in person in a while, but I feel like last year's red, band aside, I'm really talking about the back of the iPhone 12 here. It felt like it was more of a almost coral.
Yeah.
Just slightly pink, slightly orange. I'm hoping maybe they'll do purple first time up this year.
I would buy a purple phone.
Oh, I know, but
Pro phone.
But Christine, what if it wasn't Pro? What if they only had purple?
I clarified. I will only buy it if it's in Pro.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. If they came out with a purple Pro, iPhone 13 Pro, I would be all over it.
Purple Pros, huh? I made fun in my head. But I want a greater lineup of colors, a better lineup of colors on the Pros. I also
always wondered why the Pro lineup never got the product red color.
Yeah,
the red is I don't personally like the red, but it is a popular one, and it's for a cause as well. So you would think that they would just put it all over everything, but.
And I feel like the Pro in particular, like the iPhone 12 Pro was, compared to maybe previous years, was a little more popular than anybody expected. Like, I think people probably expected people to focus on the 12 and maybe the 12 mini, but that didn't happen. It was like the 12 and the 12 Pro specifically. And with a large chunk of outliers on the 12 Pro Max for the bigger screen and the bigger camera. But yeah, that they never came out with even like a mid-year, like they did with the purple iPhone, that they didn't come out with they didn't come out with a purple iPhone 12 Pro, but they could have come out with a red iPhone 12 Pro at the same time. It's a wonder that they didn't.
I just want all the colors on time. None of this mid-year refresh stuff.
Yeah.
On all the phones.
Do you remember how long everyone had to wait for the white iPhone 4?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
It was like, it was at least 6 months, I feel like. Did it actually ever come out? It did eventually. The white iPhone 4 did eventually come out, but it was a lot farther after launch than Apple had planned.
Yeah.
I think in terms of Pro colors, the only thing we've heard is there's like this bronze or copper maybe color that's coming there, and I don't know.
It's one of those colors. It's going to be very hard to photograph because it's going to look totally different in different lights.
It's going to look brown.
Yeah, and that's
I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah.
I love rose gold, like the sort of the pinky coppery look, but when it starts to get the brownish, it's not for me.
Yeah, I don't get it. And I don't understand why that's like inherently more Pro than purple or red.
Yeah, I don't get it. Yeah. I guess because it's more of like a neutral, like a natural color.
Also, I'll say it again. If Apple really wants to have like Pro colors on the Pro phones, where's the actual black iPhone Pro? Like, where is it? What, like, spend the money to figure this process out. I know.
You mean like jet black or
jet black? What is the holdup is my question. Because we've got all sorts of flavors of space gray, and now it's friggin' graphite, and what even is that? What? I'll take the scratch. Like I will accept the consequences that my phone may get scratched up if it's black, because that's harder to anodize or whatever. But if you want it Pro, make it jet black. Everyone knows that's the most professional color scheme.
Yeah.
Because we can't have like, either that or just get me just go fun, completely Skittles on this, Apple. and make it, and make it fun. But no, they won't do that. But yeah, we've diverged a little bit from MacBook Pro. But yeah, those have apparently entered production. Looking like M1X. Previous rumors have pegged this as almost like an apology release, where we're getting a lot of ports back. Not USB-A, I would imagine, but USB-C, HDMI, the SD card slot, which is of particular interest to me, and maybe most excitingly of all, Magsafe. A Magsafe connector.
I miss the Magsafe connectors.
Truly. I will finally be ready to replace my MacBook if all of this comes to pass. Yeah. Karen, I think you said before.
Have you not used a recent MacBook with a USB-C port?
My MacBook Pro is a late 2013 model. I've been needing to replace it for a while, but I have not done it. Mostly because for my main work machine, I replaced it with this 2018 Mac Mini, which is great. But there's also, there was never going to be Magsafe on the Mac Mini. He says now, knowing that Apple has a desktop class magnetic connector for its computers.
Yeah, I was on a late 2013 at my desk, but I also bought a MacBook Air in 2018 just to take to coffee shops to work. So I had a USB-C one. So
I would expect that you could still, for instance, charge through USB-C. That would be a shame to lose that. Because I can understand the convenience of that, because you can charge from either side. But MagSafe, that's the king. That is, I've told the story of it really proving itself on its first day when my roommate stepped on the cord for my MacBook Pro and my computer didn't go flying, as was the habit in college like that. And we just kind of both stopped and looked at it. It's like the computer's still on my lap and the cord's over there. This is the value of MagSafe. I think it would be interesting if they just went full iPhone MagSafe and there's a giant slot in the side of the computer that you just move the iPhone MagSafe charger into. It's like a little coin slot, going for one of those claw prizes. But yeah, I'm excited about these. Ever since everyone sings the praises of the M1. Our colleague Brian Wolf has been using an M1 MacBook, 13-inch M1 MacBook Pro basically since it came out, and he still loves the thing. I am very interested in getting my hands on, say, an M1X, seeing what that next step is.
Yeah. I want an M1 just because I can use iOS apps.
Some of these features coming to macOS Monterey are M1 exclusive, like not that I'm a huge FaceTime user, but I think some of that spatial audio stuff, like the head tracking, I think the head tracking is M1 only, but the spatial audio stuff itself is actually Macs from 2018 or later, which I find interesting. That's something Brian and I discovered this week. But yeah, it's I'm excited to finally try that out and have a Mac that I can put macOS Monterey on properly without breaking things.
Yeah.
All right.
I also just want to run iOS apps like Apollo because the Reddit website sucks.
Ah, yes. And Apollo is pretty great. I also use Apollo. It's pretty great. Or my, I say this phrase every week, but my podcatcher of choice is Overcast.
Yeah.
And that'll run just fine on a Mac, on an M1 Mac. It will not run at all on an Intel Mac.
Sad.
That tier. And one of the other things that's interesting, and what may have been the holdup for this thing, is it's a mini LED display, which there have been various rumors of they're getting a mini LED display, they're not getting a mini LED display, but it seems like recent rumors pointed yes, which, as an owner of a mini LED display, that's exciting. That's very exciting. But I would still expect these to be fairly supply constrained. So if you want one right away, jump on it. Truly jump on it.
Did you mention the possible removal of the touch bar?
Yeah, that's right. That's another thing. It's also, we're just getting I would assume just a function row back. I would bet they keep the Touch ID button, like the Touch ID bar button. So it's the same layout as the current MacBook Air.
Yeah. I've tried the touch bar a few times. I'm not really a fan.
Apple doesn't seem to be either. They haven't really done anything with it since launch.
Yeah. I mean, I purchased the 2018 MacBook Pro with Touch Bar, and so I've been using it for 3 years, and I won't miss it when it's gone. I hardly ever use it. Yeah. The only thing I really use it for is volume.
Which
presumably will be replaced by buttons, volume buttons. So
volume buttons, like buttons you can touch to raise and lower the volume. What?
Yeah.
What a concept,
Apple.
I mean, every so often I'll see something on the touch bar because, the touch bar changes contextually. Every so often I'll see something on there. I'm like, oh, I guess I should use the touch bar since I have it. I guess I'll do it that way instead of, any of the other 3 ways available to me.
Yeah.
Almost out of obligation. But I'm not going to miss it.
It would have been great if, if like shortcuts had been on Mac sooner and that they just really decked out the touch bar to just have all of your shortcuts there. You could just tap them all and just execute them all in a row. That would have been fun for me.
That would be useful.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think I've never used one regularly, so I won't have to miss it. But I don't think anyone else will, or most other people won't miss it, I would imagine. Speaking of future MacBooks, although not these upcoming models, but this is actually for future MacBooks and iPad. Apple is apparently planning sort of an OLED push for its devices, which, okay, we just changed display technologies, but yeah, if they can get OLED to work, look, I like mini LED. I think the colors are great. The HDR support is excellent. OLED displays are better overall. They're not going to deal with any of that glowing that I can see sometimes on my iPad Pro. I was going to say iPad Mini, but then no, all of that would have been wrong. On my iPad Pro, there is sort of a glow, especially around like white text on a black background, because it isn't OLED. It's not every pixel. It lights up zones instead of individual pixels like OLED does. So if Apple can get displays of those sizes on OLED, that would be great. That'd be great. Apple does great work on OLED on their iPhones. So if they can get it on other devices, that, I'd love it.
Yeah, I don't have any experience with the mini LEDs yet.
Yeah. It's overall, it's very good. There are just some instances where it's like, okay, this is slightly annoying. Like, yeah, I would prefer that it didn't glow like that, but that's not so much a software issue as just a limitation of the hardware. Because again, it's not individual pixels.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Moving on from MacBook to iPhone. Apparently, iPhone 13, this is another story about... This is a continuing story of the iPhone 13 camera. The saga that will not end until we actually know the details of the iPhone 13 camera. When Apple tells us sometime in September, we're still thinking. Yeah, so this is a story out of Bloomberg. Mark Gurman, again. This report says that ProRes video recording is coming to the iPhone 13 now. Whether that's the iPhone 13 line as a whole, or the just the Pro models, like you could record in HDR on all of the models, but from last year, but you could record it in HDR at 60 frames a second on the Pro models only. That was likely due to RAM capacity, but yeah, ProRes is a higher quality video format, and new filters. Yay.
Yeah, a filters-like system that improves the look and colors of photos. So that's one of those things that I think is going to draw mixed reviews, because
Definitely.
some people are going to be happy to have that sort of automatic improving of the photos, but some people are going to be like, that's not the photo I took.
Yeah. So Karen, where do you think you fall in this camp, assuming the filters work like this?
I would like to have the option. I would like it to show me both versions and let me pick. Because sometimes I do want that little bit of, automatic improving. And sometimes I just want the photo exactly how it looks to my eye.
Yeah. It's like this was not this red, or this was not this blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'll appreciate a bluer sky in a photo than I was able to see with my own eye sometimes.
Right.
But you also want the option to go back to the original, basically.
Yeah. And is the filter going to be or the ProRes, is it going to be an actual improvement, or is it going to make the photo look worse?
ProRes is the video stuff. That is for video recording. That's a higher quality.
No, in the quote from Bloomberg, it says, okay, yeah, it's kind of confusing the way it's worded.
Yes,
but yeah, it is for video.
Yeah, ProRes is a video format, and then also these new filter systems, that improves the look and color of photos. Okay, so yeah, this wouldn't be surprising, but also according to Bloomberg, the camera features are seen by some as the biggest selling points for the iPhone 12 successor, which is expected to go on sale in the next several weeks. That isn't surprising. Apple often spends a lot of time on the camera.
Yeah.
I think all three of us tend to upgrade yearly.
Yeah. And the camera is a big part of why I am all about my iPhone camera being better and better and better, because it is the primary camera that I use.
And it's going to be more important for me to have a better camera because I'm going to have a kid. So
you're going
to be taking a lot of pictures and videos, and you're going to want the best quality.
You're going to want a high capacity phone too.
Yeah, I'm going to get more storage this year.
I know there's been go ahead, Karen.
I switched to digital when my youngest child was born, and all of their baby pictures are like grainy because they're just, it was the digital technology available at the time.
It's like 1 megapixel cameras. And
yeah.
I remember, I think my sister was the first person to get a digital camera in our home, and it was when we were very young. And I think it was 1 megapixel was the big deal on that. And it was one of those first set of digital cameras that really just looked like it was a digital camera. It didn't look like it wasn't a DSLR or anything like that. It was just,
yeah. No, I think I waited to go digital until it was up to like 5 or something. But I remember my mom had like the first digital camera, and it actually took a floppy disk. If you can believe that.
Yeah.
I did not even know such things existed.
It did.
Truly a relic lost to the ages, that one.
And
glad I didn't have to go through that. And I was, oh man. But yeah, and I know, Christine, that you say you're going to need a higher quality camera. There have been rumors of, and I don't know that this will actually work out, but there have been rumors of like a 1 terabyte iPhone 13 Pro.
Yeah, I will probably need that.
iPhone, a 1 terabyte iPhone. I personally doubt it, but that would be fascinating.
Yeah.
They do it for iPad Pro, so who knows? Maybe now for iPhone Pro.
You're going to upgrade your iCloud storage as well, probably.
I have the 2 terabyte because of the Apple one. So
you should be good.
Yeah. Now, Christine, actually, I have a question for you about Apple One and your iCloud storage. Do you have all of your stuff, all of that Apple One stuff, on the same account, or do you have a different account for, say, App Store and like iTunes Store purchases versus iCloud?
It's all the same account.
Okay. So you can actually upgrade to 4 terabytes if you want, all the way
Oh,
up.
I can.
I think so. I think you can get more. You should check into it. But I think the
Okay.
idea, like, I can't because my store account is different than my iCloud account, and for some reason that means I'm not entitled to be able to even think about buying 4 terabytes of storage. But I think people with all of the same account can buy up to 4 terabytes.
Okay, I will look into that.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. Yeah, massive camera upgrades. This is one that is sort of a dub. An analyst at researchers at TrendForce say that the iPhone 13 will also feature a bigger battery and more mmWave 5G, which I think we all could have predicted the battery. I think we shouldn't have to predict the mmWave 5G. I'm still on the bandwagon of this is not going to be like a thing for most people. I don't think.
What do you mean?
So mmWave, to go over it a bit, mmWave 5G is can basically be divided into 2 categories. You've got mmWave and you've got sub-6. Sub-6, that's going to be most 5G that you encounter. It's certainly the only 5G I think that I've encountered, but that is the sub-6 gigahertz signal that pervades most of the country, most of America right now.
Okay.
And it's faster in a lot of places. It's a lot faster than LTE, but it's not as fast as mmWave. But it goes over a wider area. You don't need things to be as densely packed. You don't need to be very close to the signal source, which is not true for mmWave. You need to be fairly close to the mmWave antenna, like, a block or so. Mm-hmm. It gets interrupted by trees and looking the wrong way. But it is also incredibly fast. We're talking like gigabit per second speed.
Yeah.
It's incredibly fast.
I can't imagine any circumstance where I would ever be close enough to a tower that would matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it is not going to be widespread, and it doesn't in the same way that sub-6 is. And I think putting an emphasis on it is a mistake. Like putting an emphasis on like gigabit 5G speeds is a mistake when most people will never see it. I think it was our buddy Dan Bader over at Android Central, the EIC over at Android Central, who was talking about how sub-6 is really sort of the promise of LTE fulfilled. It took another generation of wireless technology, but sort of blanketing most of the country in higher speed wireless internet is what sub-6 is for. And it really does seem to, at least, okay, this is not an ad, but on T-Mobile's network, at least, that's because that's what I have experience with. It works. That 5G works. And it is something. I'm now in a place where I can say, like, if you don't have a 5G phone and you may be thinking of upgrading to an iPhone 13, 5G is something to get at least a little excited about if you're constantly on a cellular network and dealing with cellular download speeds, because it has worked out.
See, Joe, I have to disagree. I've had a 5G phone on T-Mobile, and now I'm on Verizon, and my reception is always terrible. I drop calls all the time.
I have something.
It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to spend $1,000 or more on a phone every year and not be able to make a phone call all the time.
Yeah. My T-Mobile experience, I've been on T-Mobile for, I don't know, over 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I've noticed ever since the Sprint merger, my 5G has not been working as well. Sometimes it'll say I have 5G, but nothing loads.
Yeah.
And so I just actually turned 5G off and
interesting.
Keep using LTE right now. So
that's fascinating. The difference in that experience is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It started happening after the Sprint merger went through, and
Interesting.
Something
That's
like
interesting. You'd think it would be better after the Sprint merger because there's more
One would
towers, but I
hope.
guess there's also more people on the network.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, I think, Sprint and T-Mobile, like it's different network types too. Although I wonder if that matters less, like LTE and later. I think 3G it definitely mattered more. Like more towers wouldn't help with 3G because Sprint was CDMA and T-Mobile was GSM. Those were those kind of networks. But I think that matters less with LTE and 5G. So yeah, that is rough. I left Sprint back when they were still using WiMAX. Oh, WiMAX. That was for those that don't know, WiMAX was the alternative 4G technology about a decade ago that didn't go anywhere.
So like the Betamax of
the beta
of Wi-Fi.
Christine,
you even get that joke?
you really bring it
kind
on
of.
yourself. You really bring it on yourself when you name your product something like one word and part of that word is Max. Like why would you do that to yourself? Betamax of wireless. That is terrible. One last thing I wanted to touch on in regard to the iPhone 13, and this isn't news, but it is something like Apple. Get a little more creative with your phones. There was just a great iPhone 13 concept that came out this week that I really liked. It has like almost like an Apple Watch screen on the back.
Yeah, I think that's fun. It'll never happen, but it looks fun.
I think that sort of thing actually might happen if Apple ever goes the route of like the clamshell foldable, like the Galaxy Z Flip.
Right.
There's
no reason for it unless it's a foldable.
Right. I'll flip my phone over, or better yet, I will look at my Apple Watch, which is never on my wrist correctly in frame. It always looks like it's on the side of my arm, and it really isn't. But yeah, this is a very interesting concept. But yeah, who is behind this? This, if you want to go check it out, this is user Concepts iPhone on YouTube. Very interesting, very well produced, very slick, and has us yearning for an almost useless rear display on an iPhone.
Yes. That Concepts. There's an S in the middle, just in case anybody's trying to type it.
iPhone.
Concepts iPhone. I notice it's green in the picture too. It's like a fun color.
Yeah, it's a fun color.
As long as we're mentioning things.
That's what really marks it as a concept. It's even vaguely fun color. But it's not too much longer now, I think. I mean, it seems like it because we're now in the middle of August, but really probably just over a month away, I would imagine, from seeing the next iPhone and Apple Watch and MacBooks. Come on. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I feel like Apple's gunning for a bigger event this year, like maybe one event, not spread it out over the course of the fall like they did last year, because I think Apple's ready to get back to in-person events, even if the world isn't.
You don't think this one's going to be in person, do you?
No, I don't think. Okay, no, but I think in terms of format, they kind of want to prepare people to once again have these longer events. I know I would, but before they just kind of throw it on people who will then be covering, probably from Apple's perspective, hopefully covering it in person next fall.
Yeah. Also, Apple's had a lot more time to prepare.
Yes.
And to do one big event. Last year, I mean, everything was kind of had to be thrown together on the fly. So, maybe they kind of spread it out a little bit just to make it easier on themselves. But
yeah,
this year they could do anything. However they envision doing it, they can do it.
Yeah, and it's also a manufacturing thing. Like there probably were not enough iPhones that Apple felt comfortable announcing them in September last year. Whereas by October, they were able to start announcing iPhones. Remember, it was only the iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Pro that came out initially, and then followed by the Pro Max and the Mini.
Right. Although supplies are pretty constrained in some areas still.
Yep, still. And I think a lot of that has to do with, chips still.
Yeah.
Like there has been a massive chip shortage everywhere this entire year. I mean, try to buy a graphics card. Really?
Yeah. Apparently paper is you can't buy copy paper anywhere.
Yeah.
You just never know what's going to pop up as suddenly being constrained.
There's no longer limitless paper in a paperless world. This is true. All right. We've come down to the end of it. A quick programming note for next week. There will not be an iMore show next week. Karen will be out and I will be on vacation for the first time in a while, if I'm being honest.
You deserve it, Joe.
Yeah.
So,
enjoy it and don't work.
So no show next week, and then a very special episode of the iMore show the following week. So be sure to tune in for that on August 27th. And so now that we've come down to the end of it, I want to say thanks to everyone for showing up in the comments and watching and listening live. We always appreciate you guys showing up and providing such great discussion and context, and frankly, some help. It's always good to see you folks. Big thanks to everyone who's going to listen later in their podcatcher of choice. We do this for the listeners. Otherwise, we'd just be yelling into a void. Of course, a void occupied by our friend and yours, Jim Metzendorf, who always makes us sound so lovely. So big thanks to Jim. Christine, thanks for being on this week. It was great to have you. And until next time, which won't be next week, this has been the iMore Show. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.